Legacy League, it's been a minute, but if you remember at the end of last year, I did say I was going to hold off on a few things. I always want to do stuff in August because I get so excited. Well, I get excited probably in after March Madness, so April, May, June. But heading into fantasy football season, all I want to do is talk about fantasy football. And yet, I don't want to put out a video telling what I think about anything ever because I don't need that before I go into a draft. So this year I decided to hold back the recap from last year and another video that's coming up in a little bit to right before the season. So yes, we have a lot of decisions to make following this video. We're going to talk about draft day time, etc. But right now, let's take a blast in the past and just remember what exactly happened last year in our fantasy league. Well, Tim 2 or Timmy or whatever you're going to go by, unfortunately in your rookie season with us, we know you've been in other pools, but this was your first time with us. Didn't really pan out the way you wanted. 10th place finish. You did also tie for the worst record in the regular season as well, so it wasn't just a fluke. But the team, actually, it was kind of a fluke. If we redraft this again, there's a chance there's a championship roster here. Really, it comes down to Lamar Jackson. And I think in so many pools, if you're in other ones, whoever had Lamar just drew the short straw. It was that balance of obviously some injuries and just some inefficiencies and a few of the weeks coming out looking great and then just by the end, just a drag on the roster. George Kittle, kind of the same but different. And then tight end spot where depth was just not in that position set to not even finish in the top 12 of an extremely poor tight end pool last year. Not great. Walker had his weeks, and we could go through. I'd say your steal here was probably your Devontae Adams, Baker Mayfield combo, or actually your most savvy move, just going to the roster you finished it with. The waiver wire pickup of Michael Wilson was fantastic. He was actually a top 5 receiver for the last 7 or 8 weeks, or I think 6 or 7 weeks. I just didn't want to go like that. Teachers that you get it, you know. Overall, just kind of the depth issue, and it did come down to issues when anyone was on a bye or if anyone had an off game, you just didn't have enough to bring it up. The salaries on the side are also kind of indicative of that. So back again next year, we're hoping for better things. Well, there's going to be better things. Can't be a back-to-back 10th. But here's hoping at least the guy you bust the salary bank on doesn't Lamar you in the end. Probably one of the shocks of this year after essentially dominating the pool for the last couple of years, Gene had an off year. And if you look at the team, though, there is a roster here that could have taken it all the way. Obviously, Saquon having a down year. Williams, though, was fairly steady. But now we're getting into some of the issues. Jonathan Taylor, not an issue, except for the second half of the year. He ended up being RB2 because he was that good in the first half. I would say Olave also a bit of a steal there. He was the wide receiver 6 on the year. Trevor Lawrence, we're going to get to him in just more of a second. He finished as quarterback 4, but let's see how long he was there. Oh, I should say Kyren Williams was the running back 9. A.J. Brown, weirdly enough, was the wide receiver 12, but he didn't feel like it. And I think week after week, he kind of smacked you in the mouth because he would just put up abysmal performances. He did save it a little bit in the end. The reason I said we would talk about your quarterback situation is you actually did not finish with Trevor Lawrence. Finished with Dax, which also not bad. Lawrence was 4, but Dax was 5. So not that bad, but you just didn't have the depth after that. And we know you make a lot of roster moves. We know you were trying for it. Just wasn't in the cards this year. But hey, they can't all be top 2, top 4 finishes. We're all pretty scared of you heading into this year. So we're going to take it as the 9 just because I like to follow up. I do actually have the matchup since I didn't get to that. And I'm not 100% sure Timmy's heart was really in it. Lamar's certainly wasn't. This was a walk-off. And in fact, if we look at the scores, I know Gene's thinking this because I know I was thinking it. You're like, man, if I would have gotten to the finals, things would have happened big. But you didn't. You're in the 9-10 game. So, hey, did you got 9th, Gene? Tim, you had a run there for a while, and actually there was a few week stretch when you were one of the more dangerous guys in this because of some of your late round picks. If we look all the way down here, Matthew Stafford for a 14th pick, and we'll find out how much you spent on him in a second. He was quarterback 2. Javonte Williams at running back was running back 11, which not too shabby. And Dallas Goedert, I did just say the tight end pool stunk. He was actually the tight end 3 on the year, and you had the tight end 1 all the way at the top. There is a world that exists where Rashee Rice doesn't get hurt. Justin Jefferson's like he normally does, and you actually are a threat. Unfortunately, obviously hurt and just inept offense. Gibbs was a great call, though. He ended up being the running back 4 on the year. And if we look at your roster as it finished, every week anyone played you, and by the way, Purdy had a playoff run like almost no other here. Him and Trevor Lawrence, epic last few weeks. If you had him and there was a playoff run, you would have weeks where you were essentially unstoppable, but unfortunately, some of the inconsistent play up top just didn't work out for you. Zay Flowers was another one where I'm not really sure how, but he was the wide receiver 7. I think he had a few monster weeks because I know sometimes when I played him, he was pretty soft and didn't do a whole lot. But I would say $3, folks, for Stafford, QB2. Anything is possible. You hear me say it at least 3 to 4 times every single season, so why not start out right now? There are 2 people in this pool that get to finish their last 2 weeks minimum with wins. The champion and the consolation champion. Rennie, I know you don't like the consolation part, but at least you finished on top in the last couple weeks. And if I look at your team, I think in a similar vein, Tyreek Hill, you knew it was a bit of a gamble, but I don't think we knew it was that much of a gamble. Josh Jacobs did fine, and I think not necessarily the step out of the gate. So if you look at your top couple, I mean, Henry was probably your steal, or at least your top end steal, being the running back 7. And Mahomes had a sneaky good fantasy season until he didn't. We look all the way down. I think you're probably real steal. Justin Herbert was a top 10 quarterback. And I think if we look at who you ended up with, there we are. A few people like the Juwan Johnsons in the world, that was a top 10 tight end. You look at a few people that just had their big weeks. I mean, Charbonnet, when he was healthy, gave you a few steals. But again, I think it's just the consistency of play and some of your injury concerns. You actually did tie for the 6th spot in the last playoff spot. Connor just took you on total points. So let that be a lesson learned for everybody. Remember, every week counts, every point counts. Mind your bench. The loser of our 5-6 matchup, but still made the playoffs. So Rushke, you did finish 6th. Congratulations on that. And just like Caleb Williams and the MVP, you made the playoffs. You did all right, but you didn't win your MVP. You didn't actually win it out. Although Caleb Williams was a good pick. He did serve you well for most of the season. He finished as quarterback 6. Pickens, though, was not so slim Pickens. He was wide receiver 5. I don't know if that really made sense. Jameson Williams, we're just reading off the hits here. He was 10. Collins and Nico, he was 8. James Cook, he was 5. You had a lot of guys ring the bell. And I think on any given week, you were a massive, massive threat. You did go through runs where I think you were our top scorer 2 to 3 times, which bodes well or speaks well of your roster. Taking a look, though, at the things that did not go so, you're going to think I'm going to say Kelsey didn't go so well. He was actually the tight end 4. Tight end was that crappy. Joe Burrow getting hurt, that kind of cost you. And Breece Hall being a Jet, that definitely cost him, but that's on you. You knew that was the thing before you drafted him. The Fields-Swift combo, Fields did not work out. Swift kind of did. He didn't finish in the top 12. He was just off, but he's one of those guys I was talking about. I actually think if we go all the way back, when you played me near the end of the year, and I wanted to cement, I wanted to go for that top spot, I think you beat me, and I think I swore a lot at Swift, but I can go and double check that. Anywho, buddy, here's hoping that not only Caleb has a rebound this year, but so do you. The winner of that 5-6 matchup was the Josh and Jason connection. I always avoid saying this because I feel like I'm going to mispronounce it, but you know what you're talking about. You went wide receiver heavy, and the funny part was neither wide receiver really did a whole lot for you. Neighbors looked good until he got hurt, and Drake London was just super inconsistent, did have some injury issues. You could say the same with Brock Bowers. You could say the same with James Conner. Garrett Wilson was a Jet, so the real question is, how did you finish into the playoffs? How did you get there? Bijan was a big reason why, running back 3. But let's take a look at who you ended up with. Made some depth moves. Chase Brown obviously did quite well, and I guess it's not obvious, but he was the running back 8. And Dart was a sneaky pick there, and had he been healthy all year, he probably would have gotten you there. So you were just a good example. By the way, Tyler Shepp, don't sleep on him. He had some great weeks at the end of the year. You guys just had those sneaky matchups week by week by week where you made a ton of moves and you just kind of got where you need to go. Even Pitts had a really bad last week, but you didn't make it to the last week as the 5-6 matchup is the week before that, and he did quite well in the last couple weeks that you played him. He was the tight end 2 on the year. Think about that, folks, when you're drafting tight ends this year. Kyle Pitts, tight end 2. Last season. Just taking a look at what that looked like, it was a fairly competitive 5-6 matchup. You both were definitely going for it. Didn't have as many people, but didn't have as many people taking the day off. solid matchup anytime you get both plus 150. And in that particular week, since that was not the finals, it was one of the top scores in the 182, second only to the guy that took me down and ruined my life. We'll get to him later. Anywho, congratulations on the 5th. I know you're looking for something now in the top 4 and playing for money, but we'll leave that for next year. Unfortunately, Connor, you get the Womp Womp Award for finishing 4th. That means you get all the way to the semifinals. You think it's in your grasp, and you lose the last 2 weeks of the season, and you're only one of the top 4 who's a cash list. The other shock of the year is you only drafted 3 quarterbacks this year, so great restraint on that one. But 3 good ones in theory, 2 of them great. Josh Allen, QB1, Dax Prescott, QB5, Jaden Daniels, that was a rough go. So was Brian Thomas Jr. So you definitely took your shares of the highs and the lows, but with the amount of roster moves you make, I'm going to scoot myself this way and I'm going to go over here because it's better to look at who you finished with. And you'll notice that one name I mentioned, Trevor Lawrence, he had a massive last 5 to 6 weeks of the season, got himself all the way up to QB4. So we can't blame you for playing a little bit of ring around the rosy here because you know Dax does not have a spot in your roster. Jaden Daniels still did. That's surprising. But also, I'd say credit to the resourcefulness. You end up with Jonathan Taylor, who was a running back 2 on the season, although the front half better than the second half. And you definitely were that guy that just kind of weaseled out week by week. You started off pretty rough, made a lot of deals, made a lot of moves, tied for 6th place, got in because of total points, and then won your first round to really just throw things off. So, as always, you're going to be a competitor. I think we're all going to try and look to set market value of QBs. 59 for Josh Allen. I wonder if anyone goes higher than that this year. But whatever that value is, we know you're going to be the one setting it. So, can you do yourself this year? Going to get to 60? I don't know. Let's see. I know everyone loves to watch me talk about me. In fact, I bet you most of you don't even watch this part. You probably just fast forward through. Picks that I love that I would make again in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, I went a little too Leo DiCaprio here, a little bit too young, and it kind of bit me in the butt. I mean, Tyler Warren, Egbuka at the start of the year felt like a genius. Probably should have traded him because they had a horrible second half. But you know who didn't? Drake May. That's our quarterback 3. How about CMC Music Factory at running back 1? If only CeeDee Lamb doesn't get hurt. I am dominant here, I think. And I got St. Brown as wide receiver 3. Take a look at who I ended up with. And here was kind of that problem is I really never was able to develop that depth that you need to, or to have the heart to walk away from someone like Warren. And it didn't really catch me until it caught me. I already showed you what happened to me in that semifinal matchup. Marco put up the top score of the week, and I just didn't. And so I was in the semi. At least I rebounded, won my bronze. Womp womp. I think I'm in the bronze medal game like almost every year. That's not a flex. I'm going to be dead last this year just because I said that. But man, could I make a final. Anywho, speaking of final, let's talk about it. Speaking of the guy who broke my heart and almost earned his actual name, he got close. Silver medal, pretty darn close. Running back heavy off the get-go. Genty was a funny one. Didn't necessarily have the year you wanted, but he definitely had some weeks that you wanted. He was a weak winner. Scottaboo, you could say the same thing. He had his time in a place, unfortunately got hurt. So if I'm just looking at your roster, I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen some other people with rosters that looked like they would be the team that finished second. But if we go over here with what you finished with, you definitely made some moves, picking up a tight end who had a great finish, picking up a couple wide receivers. I mean, same draft class. That was pretty interesting. Getting on the Goff train. Knicks did just enough each week. And then obviously Hurts had his highs and lows. Hurts did finish as the QB9. It just didn't feel that way. And Nix was the QB7. So overall, and I'm sorry, Goff was the QB8. So you had 7, 8, 9 there. And when it came, and I should have pointed out HN. Sorry, I don't want to duck that guy because that was running back 6. In that offense, that's like running back 1 type material. But what you really came down to was that semifinal where you just pumped. You had guys on the go. You had your league winners going. Unfortunately, the final, not the same. The final in general was just a series of what happened. And wouldn't it have been crazy if it was Wan'Dale Robinson's 24 that got you over the line? Fortunately for Jeff, it wasn't. But congrats on the second. Now let's talk about Jeff. It is difficult to run the year and then run the playoffs. Jeff, we were neck and neck at the end there. I think I passed you with like 2 weeks left, and then you got the title right back. You did win the regular season, and then you went through the playoffs. So congratulations. Couldn't have happened to a better dude. And how it happened, I mean, wide receiver heavy. Are you kidding me? Most people's draft board, and I don't know yours, so I'm not making assumptions. I'm just going on what Yahoo tells me, has these three characters at the 1, 2, 3 ranked wide receivers coming into this year. Now, it wasn't that going into it, but would you be shocked if they're the first three off your board? Now, in terms of how that finished, Nacua was the wide receiver 1, JSM was wide receiver 2, Chase was the wide receiver 4 because that offense had some issues. So when you're that top heavy, really just becomes, how do I build around? Now, Bucky Irving certainly had his weeks. Darnold was kind of an inspired pick there because he had weeks where he did great. Taking just that level of depth and just getting the points that you need so they could push you over the line, that's where your bread and butter was. Now, I don't want to point to here because this was not your best, but look at the three that stood up and pretty much the reason why you won. I think they were the reason why you were there and the reason why you got over the line. Now, not every time did you have such wet farts from everybody else. Normally you did a lot better than that, obviously by the number of points you scored. I should say not only were you number 1, I believe you were also top scorer by a few points on me. So Jeff, wire to wire, we can complain about fantasy sports all we want, and we will, especially me. If you're going to score the most points, if you're going to win the most games, and then you win the thing in the end, can I really be upset? Congrats, buddy. Like I said, crew, now we have to figure out next year's stuff. This was us putting last year to bed. Congrats again, Jeff. We've got to figure out a draft day, draft time, and you got to do your draft research. So all that stuff's going to be coming in the next little bit. Get ready for a firing of messages, but hopefully this got you a little bit more excited about next season. See you all at the draft, folks.